Now, I've said this once and I'll say it again, but when you look at many different companies, such as the Walt Disney Company in isolation and all the divisions associated with it, there are a lot of failures. There's also a lot of setbacks and challenges that Bob Iger and the board of directors are dealing with as of right now. The Disney stock is very erratic throughout all of 2024. It's not looking good in the least for Bob Iger's so-called legacy that he's trying to build up until he plans to step down by 2026 sometime. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So, given that Snow White 2025 is destined to essentially be the biggest failure by the Walt Disney Company for 2025, especially when it comes to a live-action project. Now, this all has a lot to do with the massive budget, Rachel Zegler, her overall PR disaster, and everything else coming in between. And also, there's a lot of drama going on between both Gal and Rachel behind the scenes in the midst of planning for additional reshoots. Now, one thing about Snow White 25 is that we know that there's a lot of things going on with this movie in particular related to the constant revisions and the alterations that are being made to this movie in order to save it, essentially, even though I believe that there's no saving this movie. There's no way that you can really run away from everything that Rachel Zegler impacted on when it came to her comments, when it came to her social media use about how she was promoting the film. And let's just, say one thing that's very clear here as well, is that this movie just really is not focusing on the 1937 original. Now, interestingly enough, on top of everything here, with multiple divisions at the Walt Disney Company going through multiple challenges and issues simultaneously, one monumental development going on right now has more to do with Rachel Zegler and her financial impact, as it turns out, on the upcoming Snow White 25 film after more drama recently erupted behind the scenes for the project with a whopping budget of $300 million plus. Now, one shocking turn of events now is that, as it turns out, Rachel Zegler already created a more serious issue for the Walt Disney Company that caused them to lose millions of dollars in the process of developing Snow White. Many scenes are already now being thrown out completely in the trash and locked up in a vault due to Zegler's terrible acting capability and the multiple takes that were done for certain scenes. A whopping 30 minutes of footage was reportedly thrown out for Snow White, and that roughly cost Disney around $40 million that will never be used in the film, which is now officially causing Disney to kickstart reshoots again in the wake of the recent test screening failure. Now, one scene in particular that was very expensive that cost Disney around $15.5 million to invest into involved a major scene between Snow White and the Evil Queen engaging in a confrontation with each on top of a castle. This was described to be the prelude to the final battle between Snow White and the Evil Queen, where Snow White is running away from various attacks by the Evil Queen's sorcery. Now, the scene was best described as heavily loaded with CGI, and the very scene that segued into the final battle that was also cut from the film and listed as an expensive sequence. And another scene that was thrown out, that cost Disney around $13 million flat, involved the very scene in which the Evil Queen transforms into the Old Hag, aka the Witch, and a major, of course, significant singing session, between both Zegler and Gal Gadot were done before Snow White figures out the Evil Queen as the villain. This duo singing session in the film was reportedly terribly received in the most recent test screening and axed due to Rachel Zegler's subpar acting in the sequence that was also said to be overloaded with CGI and even unfinished CGI dwarfs. Now guys, let me stop here for one moment before I move on. Now, this also comes after how we had people out there like Greta Gerwig and director Mark Webb really demanding the Disney company that certain scenes should have been included in the final cut and certain takes should be used in the final cut upon, showcasing it to the test screeners. And that backfired. That basically backfired terribly for everybody, for the Walt Disney Company, for the overall cast and the crew for this project. It is a major problem going on right now. And that's exactly why I keep on saying that the overall Snow White 25 film, it's almost like a repeat of the level of backlash that the Acolyte received and all the drama that came along with it behind closed doors. It's very, very similar, and I swear, the only company that you see this happening with is the Walt Disney Company, where you have similar scenarios happening at the same exact time. Now, when you look at things like this, when you have Rachel Zegler and her impact, her financial impact on this film is so massive to the point where it makes a lot of sense why they did drop her from all projects associated with Disney. We talked about this a couple of days ago. That was the right call by Bob Iger. I'm not defending him by any means, but it's at least a right decision on his foot. However, the CGI was said to be, of course, finished and completed in the midst of the last test screening from not so long ago, and Disney recently decided to axe this scene from the film as well. This all comes well after Bob Iger's plan to reshoot the major parts of the film and to reinvest more funds into the budget of the film based on what they lost in hopes of making the film into a smashing success at the box office. A 6th test screening is prepared to take place later this month after additional reshoots, or before I should say additional reshoots, are to be done as a last-ditch effort to save the film from being a colossal failure. However, the board of directors are very unhappy about Zegler's financial impact on the Walt Disney Company and all the amount of money that they lost on this project. Now, that's another problem, is the fact that they really overloaded their CGI use in Snow White. I said this before when going over the trailer, the teaser trailer that debuted at D23 for the general public, that overall trailer really looked like some CGI fever dream nightmare. There's something about it that just seemed so weird and out of place, very odd, to say the least. I really can't quite put my finger on it, but the CGI usage is overdone, and it really does make a lot of sense why this movie cost them so much money, because it's all CGI. Everything is CGI everywhere. Even the dwarves are CGI. They couldn't use real people, and basically that goes against, Disney's so-called DEI agenda. They're very hypocritical, right? They're all about including everybody. Well, they didn't give actual dwarves parts in this movie to have roles or to kind of give them a chance to be in the film industry, making their job even harder as an actor or actress. So overall, I think it's a very messy situation going on right now, especially with Disney coming out of the Acolyte, also with all the different reshoots and all the alterations that were applied to Captain America 4, and this thing going on with Snow White, and the potential failure with Skeleton Crew by Lucasfilm. We'll have to wait and see how that goes, the next upcoming Star Wars show in December. So overall, I think a lot of, the choices that Bob Iger made are done on a frantic response. He doesn't really quite know what to do. The fact that you're putting more funds into this project that is just spiraling downward out of control makes no sense to me. So overall, I would love to hear what everyone has to say about everything related to the Walt Disney Company drama, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.